We have a Mixdown Session with Ammo. I'm gonna let him take the floor, and he's gonna talk about all his goods.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you guys. You made it through day 2. Give it up for yourself. Appreciate you guys ending it with me. Really excited to kind of show you what I've been working with from my live setup, going to bring it to the DAW, right? So you're performing live or you're in the studio and you're jamming, and I want to bring it home and make it into a track and release it out into the world, right? But I think it's really important for us to do some housekeeping first. So I don't know if you guys can you show a video feed of the live set really quick? This modular grid? Yeah, cool. So this is my live set here. I perform with, also, I should have mentioned, my name is Ammo. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm a record label owner. My label is called Out of Office Records. Thank you, thank you. Very grateful to have collaborated with Space and 3 Points for this. I'm truly honored to be here. But yeah, we do vinyl-only tracks, releases, and every release has a comic book in it showing you kind of like my story through music, but told through an alien named Drew. And I partnered up with a really cool illustrator who does all the special effects animations on Rick and Morty. So she does some really cool illustrations, and happy to show you guys that afterwards. So that's a little bit about me, but let's get into the gear and into the production stuff. So this is my live set here. This closes. I don't know if you can see that, but this closes to like be like you can fold it and put it in a backpack. And I try to be like super simple. So when I'm traveling, it's like carry on only, no checked bags. I don't want anybody throwing this thing around. It's worth quite a bit of money, and it took a lot of time to patch it. So I try to keep everything as is. What I'm using for my clock is Pam's Pro Workout from ALM. I've got a sequencer here from WMD called the Metron. And I've got a mixer here called a Performance Mixer from WMD also. So that's the main stuff. Everything else is either voices or samplers or effects, filters, that kind of fun stuff. And then I got one thing over here to my right. This is a Benny Dub digital echo, which is very much like a dub delay. It's really sick. Dub delay really brings it in. It's got that like reggae kind of dub vibe to it. But yeah, I'm going to play a little demo for you guys so you guys can kind of hear what's going on here. So let's do this. So yeah, that's what I do pretty much live, and it's like 100%. Thank you, thank you, thanks. It's a very like small version of what I do, but oh, by the way, I talked to this little microphone box I got with a tape machine. It was like a reel-to-reel I got in a garage sale for like $10, and the reel-to-reel was kind of crap, so I just took the mic and I just used it in my live set, and it sounds really cool. And I have it going through Make Noise Echophone, so I can do like really cool stuff live and improv, like the kind of stuff you heard me do, like when I did this. And then you can just kind of affect it out. So a lot of fun stuff you can do with that. But yeah, so I mean, this seems probably a little intimidating to use at first, and we'll get into that kind of at the end, the psychology of like building a live set. But I know Fef kind of went into that yesterday, so I kind of wanted to bring it into like, hey, we've got a live jam, we played it out live, and let's bring it into the DAW. Let's bring it into whatever DAW you're using, Ableton, Logic, whatever it is, Reason, and let's kind of show how I do it, because I like to keep the live element of what happened here also here in the computer. You know, I don't want to be in the box 100%. I want to still feel like that. So I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that work for me. All right, cool. So let's say I've recorded all this in just for time's sake already. So we've got this kick I got going here. Then we got this little bass line I got going here. And I got a few different ones. So what I do is, you can see on the screen there, this is how I record in the studio. I'll record like, I don't know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes out, and then I'll take clips from that and chop it down. So that's why you see here full, low, doubled, light, chorus, chorus 2, after chord, double. And I might not play it all, but this is my process that helps me to jam with it live. So we got these two things, then we got this acid here. This is my favorite. I think I might not even use this second bass, but I kept it just in case. And then we got the snare. We got a little clap action. We got a little hat. And then I did this live on the microphone, a little whisper action. So that's all the things I've recorded out live. So let's say we've recorded this out, we've jammed it, and we want to bring it into the DAW. So we've already brought it into the DAW, and now we want to make it into an arrangement. I've left this completely blank just for us to do together. So this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to stop everything except for the kick and this acid low loop that I made, and I'm going to start recording. But before I start recording, wait, how many people here use Ableton? Okay, perfect. Kind of, somewhat. Okay. You can probably do this in other DAWs, but what you want to do is make like quick keys. You want to make things like super easy for you, so when you're creating and recording live, you don't have to think too much, right? Like there's two sides of the brain. We have a creative side of the brain, we have an analytical side of the brain. You got to separate the two. You know, there's different sessions for both. If you have like less than an hour, you should be working on analytical things. If you have more than 2 hours, you should be working on creative things. So that way you're not there like, oh, how do I figure out this plugin? How do I figure out this piece of gear? How do I figure out, etc. Like fill in the blank. You're going to get frustrated, and it might kill your creativity, and it might be really discouraging, which we've all felt. I mean, I've felt a million times over, and still. So it's good to separate the two. So what I'm going to do is make this super simple, dumbed down, watered down. So like when I'm going to record this in live, as if I'm playing it live, it's going to be like snap of the button. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go over here to the top right. I'm going to click key, and I'm going to put the number 1 on my keyboard. So what this does is map a key on your keyboard to control anything. So I'm going to map this speaker mute on channel 1. You can see it over here on the left side. It'll say 1. And then I'm going to go over here to the hat, to number 2. And I'm going to stop the key mode for a second. I'm actually going to put the snare and the clap into a group. I just hit shift and clicked on both. Command G for group. I'm going to put here clap/snare, because I want this whole group to be mapped to channel to number 3, right? So now we got kick, hat, and clap be able to mute through my numbers 1, 2, 3 on the keyboard. Make sense? Yeah? Cool. All right. So now we got that going. I've got my acid. I'm going to move over here to the left side just to make it a little faster, because this is my main bass line that I'm going to be using. This other kind of like synthy bass, I don't know if I'm going to use it 100%, so I'm going to kind of keep it secondary. but everything else I'm going to be using straight up. So the way I like to arrange my tracks is I like to play everything in live. Like I like to keep that live element, like that feeling, that organic, like let's throw effects live, let's mute things live, because that's what I'm doing here. I don't want to lose that over when I get to over here. So that's what I'm going to do live right now. So I'm going to hit record, and we're going to arrange this thing in 7 minutes. You guys ready? Yeah? Yeah? This guy's laughing. He's like, you sure? Yeah, let's do it. All right. So I'm just going to hit record. It's going to start playing the bass and the kick already, and we're going to get going. I'm going to try to talk to it, but it's a little hard to multitask when I do this. I'm going to mute the kick. I'm going to bring in the hat now. I can press tab to kind of see where it is. Oh, yeah, but it would help if I press record first, right? So let's let's do that. Let's press record first. Hat. It's kind of cool when you mess up because you bring it back and you have this whole different idea. I took out the kick. Now second. I'm going to open up this group so I can play these individually. I'm going to play a little bit of this to tease it. And I brought in the clap right there. I'm just clicking these, like nothing crazy, just literally clicking play at the times that I feel that it's right. I'm going to put a little delay. I'll press tab to see where I'm at on the timeline, but not caring too much, just like a little mute. Next one. Little effects here and there, and all the arrangements being recorded in. So we're at 1:20. So I just hit the whisper vocal that I did. I'm adding a little reverb here and there. I'm going to go to the next one. So just going down the line on the hat. Can add a little delay to this whisper thing. So I just brought in a different bass line. Same from the same machine, same module, but different part. I'm going to bring in this full one now. And you can hold down command and hit enter on 2 clips at the same time and bring it in like this. Just throwing little effects here and there to kind of, and now I'm going to bring in the snare and bring out the hat. This is the full acid that I got here, so it's a really long, like modulated kind of thing, and we can send it to the reverb and make a little break here, like. Bringing everything back now. Little mute, bring it all in. In both the snare and the clap now by pressing the group. And I'm just going through the hats now. And it might not be perfect, but I kind of like the imperfections, you know? see where we're at. Let's bring it back now. So we're just jamming, grooving, a little bust down here. Bring it to a different part of the bass. I throw like the delays every once in a while, add a little swing. So I'm gonna bring down the fader on the whisper and I'm gonna fade it up manually. Then bring it all in. See where we're at on time, 5:20. All right, we got time for a little breakdown. So I'm muting live. I'm pressing 1, 2, 3 and muting live and recording in. That's okay. A little messed up, but that's okay. We can fix it later. We can fade out the whisper now. So we're kind of coming to a little outro. I'm going to stop one of the claps or snares in a second. Maybe a little reverb out at the end on the hat. There we go. Just arrange the track. That's it. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I like to keep it live. There was some mess ups there, but I'm cool with that. You know, like I can come in here to the automated, so I just press tab to get over the other screen. And I can come to the automation. It'll show up there in a second probably. And yeah, there was some mess ups for sure, like, but that's okay because I want to really capture that live organic element of like jamming, you know, whether I'm performing live or jamming in the studio. I really want to like bring that home and release that. So I mean, you can go through here and see like, okay, it wasn't perfect, but we can go through some things and see. Like maybe right there, I wanted to take this guy out, you know, and we could put a little marker here too and be like, right click, add locator, like, you know, maybe take out whisper. So that way, when you're really cleaning this up, you can just chop it up. We'll do it here really quick. So let's see how this sounds. See, there we go. Yeah. It's like little cleanups like that. And I always like to go through, like, because I'm doing this live, so you have to remember, like, you're not a robot. So sometimes when you're unmuting things in the automation, it might cut off a kick. So you have to just kind of like check to make sure, because that can show up when you're, you know, when it goes to mix down phase or mastering. So I kind of check. I mean, it doesn't seem like it was too crazy. It doesn't look like I really messed up anywhere on the kicks so much. But sometimes you'll see something like this, like you'll see like halfway through. And that you want to clean that up because that can mess up a system when you're playing it out loud. But this is basically the arrangement portion that I do, and then I bring it right to Mixdown, which I thought we could maybe dive into a little bit here if that's cool with you guys. Good with that? All right, cool. So obviously things are not, I actually was redlining on purpose because I wanted you guys to see how we actually clean this up. So I know that I did a little fade here on this whisper track, but this one's, if you see the numbers above the zeros, except for 5.9 and negative and 1, those are all like the resonating peaks. So everything's pretty loud. So what I'm going to do is that whisper track, it's at negative 14, so it's already super low. So I'm just going to press Command A and then hold down on Command and uncheck this whisper. So I want to unselect it. And the clock. The clock is what's syncing the Eurorack to Ableton, which I just really quick. I'm using ALM PAM Sync. It's a free plugin. As long as you have a sound card that has 2 extra outputs, you can just send 2 1/4" to 3.5 millimeter to your Eurorack, and you're synced in, good to go with the clock and the run. So anyway, back to the mixdown. So I'm going to unselect that, and I'm going to bring everything down. I'm going to, select everything except for these 2. I'm going to type in here where it says 0. I'm going to put -10. Let's just bring this thing down and see where we're at. That was a good time to also check because that was a super loud time. So if you look on the master, we're resonating at like -521. So this is a good time to come in. It's not a bad little headroom we got there. So let's listen to the kick really quick. So it sounds pretty solid. It's not bad, but we need to do some cleanup, just some housekeeping, just to keep everything in its zone, right? So I don't know if anybody here has experience already mixing down tracks. Anybody by a show of hands? Somewhat? Okay, cool. Cool. So we'll go into a little bit of it so that way it can help the people who know and hopefully give some insights to people who don't know. So, so kicks, anything under any like bass elements, kicks, bass lines, anything like that underneath 300 hertz. Usually for me, I'm old school, has to be mono. You can do that easily in Ableton with the utility, which we're going to show. And then there's some cool things that work with the utility where you can do bass mono. So you're like, hey, only under 200, 300 hertz, I want to be mono, but everything above it, I want it to be stereo. So that's if you're working with like a synth that has like a bass voice in it, but you want to keep the above 300 hertz still like nice and stereo. That's a cool element you can do, or a cool little trick you can do. So let's go to the kick where we know 100% it's going to be mono. And the thing I like to do, like I said, I like to keep things easy for me in the studio. So I create channel strips, which is super easy. It's basically an audio effect channel, an audio effect group in Ableton. So this one's called Basic Audio Strip. And all you have to do, I'm going to ungroup it so I can show you how to make one really quick because that might be valuable. But I added a glue compressor, an EQ8, and a utility. I just went to the audio effects on the left tab and added them in there easily. And these are all like zeroed out. I don't want any presets from anything else. I want to start fresh on every track because I don't want to bring what I did before into the new one, even though it might be similar. I want everything to be kind of fresh and different. So once you got all these down here on the track, on the channel, you can press Command A and then Command G, and you can go here to the bottom left and hit Save. And then over here on the left side in this little Explorer window, you can type in the name of your audio effect rack that you want to make. So as you know, I put Basic Audio Strip, and I'm going to put just put like 3 points or something. So that way we know. Here we go, Strip 3B. Cool. So now anytime you come over here, you can go to presets. And what's cool about Ableton is you can create favorites. So if you see on the right side, should show in a second there, I've created favorites. So this one is in my audio channel strips on the right. It's in the red color. So now I can go up to the top left under collections. I got audio channel strips and any other plugins or things I'm going to use. So I'm going to keep everything super default for Ableton for anybody who's not using plugins or doesn't have access to them. Because I think Ableton has a lot of great ones. So I got the glue compressor, I got the EQ8, and I got the utility. On the kick, I'm not going to use the compressor. What I am going to use is this utility. I'm going to make it mono right away. And then on the first band here on the EQ8, I'm going to roll off at just 20 hertz just to clean it up. And I'm going to listen. And I'm going to see here on my fourth little point here, this little EQ here. So it's just very like mixing desk style. You can kind of create a notch and see if there's any elements you like. Just put it all the way up and see if there's anything you like or you want to take away. Ooh, like I like that right there at 51 hertz. So now that I'm all the way up, I'm just going to click over here where it says gain, and I'm going to type in 3, because I just want 3 dB. I don't want anything too crazy. Just 3 dB, little bump there. Yeah, it's nice. And if we turn this off, you can hear the difference. So this is off, and this is on. Creates like a nice little resonance, like in that 50 hertz range. And then you can, if you want, roll off the kick. It's up to you. Depends how analog your kick is. If it's digital, you might not need to, or you might want to. Just depends on how much like click you want. So I'm gonna just roll it off there at, what is this, 6K. And then what I'm going to do is, super important, I'm gonna add the spectrum here. The spectrum is exactly how it sounds. It's a spectrum analyzer. And what it does, it analyzes the frequency of whatever channel that this plugin or audio effect is on. So I'm going to put this here to find the resonant frequency of the kick. It should pop up here in a second. Sorry, it's a little delayed. It's coming. There you go. So you can see if I stop playing, or you can, even if I don't stop playing, you can kind of see where it's resonating. I got that 50 hertz area going all the way to this 100 hertz. But it's mainly this 50 is like that 52 is like the highest resonating frequency there. So this is really important because we need to take this out of the bass and any other low frequencies. Because what happens in audio, I mean, I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but if two sounds or two frequencies are playing exactly at the same frequency at the same time, they will cancel each other out. And if you go to a club, then you're not going to hear it. It's just going to take it out. It's going to sound kind of muddy. It's going to sound like something's missing. So we need to leave room for other frequencies to live, you know? It's kind of like a family. Everybody's got their personality, you know? Some people are quiet, some people are loud. Everybody's got to have the balance. So it's the same thing when it comes to frequencies and mixing down. So we got 49, 52 hertz in the kick. So I'm going to come over here to the acid, and I'm going to add another basic channel strip that I've added. And I actually have one just for bass also that I created, which is useful for you guys too, which I have like basically it's the glue compressor with the sidechain on and monoed out already. So, but I'm going to take out that 49 hertz. So you're going to see it here in a second. I'm going to type in 4950 hertz, and I'm going to go ahead and take out 5 dB, and I'm going to bring the Q. The Q is the notch, so it's how wide or how narrow your frequency dip or notch is. Does that make sense? Now it's kind of weird, but basically you can see it here. If I go all the way up on the Q, it's going to make it really tight. And then if I go all the way down on the Q, it's going to make it really wide, like just open it up. There you go. So I'm going to keep it kind of wide, kind of like around 7 or 8, just because that resonating kick frequency is anywhere from like 49 to 52. So I'm going to keep that there. And then let's hear how it sounds. And the other thing I'm going to do is I am going to sidechain the acid to the kick. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm on post effects. Pre-effects. So that way anything we're doing to the kick channel doesn't affect what the sidechain input is coming in. So we always want the kick to kind of keep playing. You could also do this with a kick, the ghost channel. That's just like a MIDI channel sending a kick that's muted or that's playing with no sample on it. But this is how I do it. And then I'm going to look to see what's going on here on the threshold. So I'm going to bring the threshold. I'm going to start with like -10, -12. And I want to see it just moving a little bit. And I'm going to bring the mix down a bit. So that way it's not 100% kicking and it's still kind of compressing some of the bass channel, but it still has movement. Now I'm going to put the makeup gain at 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the dry wet at 80% because I want this kind of parallel compression kind of thing. See if that might sound a little bit better. There you go. So that's kind of cool. Now let's hear the bass. Let's see what we can add to it. So I like to do the same thing I did in the kick. And I like to create a notch and just find what I like in the bass and boost that. Ooh, that's nice. So like right there at around 255 hertz, I'm going to add 5 dB. I'm going to make the Q a little bit tighter, and I'm going to keep going because I think there's more. And the whole point of this is to not make things sound stock, right? You don't want things to just sound how they came out. I mean, some things sound great as is, but it's always nice to add your little flavor to it. So it's original and it's unique. So I added another little notch here. I'm going to see what else we got. Yeah, right there is good. So around 464 hertz. So I'm just going to leave that at 5 dB also, but I'm going to make the Q a little bit tighter since we're so close to 255. And I think I want to add some high frequency boost here because it sounds a little like filtered already. So I think around like 2-3K, that's good. Add a little 7 dB right there, and make the Q a little bit tighter. So that's good. So the other thing I want to take a notice of is the resonating frequency of the kick and the bass, right? So if you look on right above where it says -10, it says -11.9 for the kick, and that's where it's resonating at. That's like the loudest peak, right? So I want to keep everything within -5 or negative or plus, so plus or minus 5 or 7 dB from the kick. That's a good range for me to stay in. Some things like effects and background noises can be lower, but most things I want to keep within that range personally. So I'm going to use the kick as my guide and go everywhere from there. So the bass, I like to keep maybe 1 or 2 dB away from the kick because that's what's driving, that's what's making everybody dance, right? So I'm going to keep both of those around the same. So that sounds pretty good. It's -14. And also this acid, it changes, right? This bass changes. So that's what the compression's there for. It's to kind of level things out and add that makeup gain to kind of make everything sound leveled and full and not get too crazy, but also not get too low. So we got those two things going. Let's check out this clap snare group. So I'm going to add in, I created a little channel strip for this where I add in some fun stuff. So on this guy, I've got just an EQ8, and I'm already canceling out anything under 300 hertz because I don't really want that to mess with the bass or synth or anything lower than that. I don't want it to mess with that. Like I said, every frequency, every sound and frequency has a place. So I kind of want to take that out. Unless there's like a tom or something, then I'll like finesse that. But this has no tom. Snares tend to have a little bit of frequency because they're emulating a real snare drum, which is literally a drum with 2 skins and a snare on the bottom. So it does have some low frequency, but I don't want to have too much of that. So 300 hertz is fine for me. I don't mind. Compressor, I'll maybe put this at -10, just to have some compression, just a little bit. But again, I'm going to bring the dry wet down to like 75, 80, so we have this parallel dry wet compression going on. And anything for drums, you want fast attack because it's a drum, so it's happening fast. Drums and vocals, you want fast attack for the most part. And then the cool thing added on here is this vintage sampler, which is coming from Ableton's, what is this called? Redux. So you can also use plugins for this. I have a few plugins for this, but I'm trying to make things like super user-friendly for everybody here in case they don't have the plugins. So if you just type in vintage sampler on Ableton, this will come up, and this basically makes it kind of sound like an older MPC or SP1200 kind of thing. And I've got it on 5%, but let's hear it on 100. So that's on 100. So let's start bringing it down. That's nothing. This is 100. Kind of takes out some of the higher frequencies, so I'm going to leave it around 25. I'll bring up the dry wet until I find where I like it. And you can mess with the rate. You can bring it down. Let's see how it sounds down. This is like nothing. And that's like super low bit rate right there. So I'm going to leave it back at where I had it at 13,000 hertz. And I'm going to leave this at like 40%. Yeah, 40% sounds good to me. So looking at the resonating frequency, we're at -13-ish, -12, 11. That's actually pretty good, but I'm going to bring it down one more from the kick. So let's hear what we got so far. So things are kind of level here. I like where it's at. Things aren't too far away or too in your face. So let's now work on the hats. So the hats are always fun. So I have a channel strip that I made for this too. Let's go up here to my audio channel strip collections, and I got hats here. I also have vintage sampler on here as well because I do like using this a lot. So the cool thing I like to do on the hats, which probably, I don't know if a lot of people do or not, but I'm weird. So I'll do a side chain to either the kick or the snare or the clap. So it's like breathing. So it's like clap and then hat, clap and then hat. So we can see how it sounds on both and just kind of take it from there. And then you got to bring up the makeup gain to really hear it. And bring it to like 80%. And bring that attack down. So we got kick, pre-effects on the glue compressor. So you can kind of hear it. It's like moving a little bit. Let's hear it with the kick. But we have to bring the volume up because it's -22 right now. So we got to bring it up. And the way I bring it up is on the utility because I want to keep the channel faders almost normal so that we can, if we need to automate things or if we just want to, that's like kind of our master fader per track. except for what I did on the whisper. I recorded in live some arrangements, so you'll see that red dot there means it's been automated. So let's add 10 dB, or let's add 8 dB on the utility, on the hats. So now we're at negative 16, negative 15, negative 14.8. So that's about 3 dB away from the kick. So that's pretty good. You could even come a little bit lower if you wanted to. So you can do the same thing here. You can add or take away some frequencies on the hat if you want to. So I'm going to... That like piercing, I don't like that piercing, so I'm going to take that away. So I just found it. I'm going to take, that's around 12.4 kilohertz, so I'm going to take out like negative 5 dB there, and I'm going to make a nice tight notch, because I don't want to lose the other frequencies. And let's see if we can add something. I kind of like that there. So that's at 7.9 kilohertz, so let's go ahead and add 4 dB there. And that's cool. That's cool for me. So now let's go to this vocal track. Whoa, that's kind of intense, huh? So I can already hear like, wow, there's some frequencies we got to clean up. So let's add this basic audio strip. Definitely need a compressor on this guy because he's like all over the place. I recorded this in live, like as I was playing with music playing in the background. So there's definitely going to be a lot of crazy sounds going on. So we got to clean up a little bit. So I'm going to put negative 15 on the threshold and make the attack fast because the voice, believe it or not, it's like a percussion instrument. So when you're speaking, it's like attack. So you want it to be really fast so it can attenuate it really fast. So let's bring it down. I don't see anything moving on the threshold yet. So basically when I'm using compression, I'm bringing it down until I see movement and then I fine tune it. So around 27 to 30 hertz. And I'll put a makeup gain of like 1 to 2 hertz and then dry wet it at 90% because I do want a lot of compression on this guy. And then what I'm going to do on the Q8 is on this first notch, I'm going to go ahead and take out 200 hertz, but I'm going to bass mono this on the utility because this is like literally a whisper, right? So there's not a lot of low frequencies, but I'll just do it just in case. But I do want to clean it up, 200, 250 hertz, anything after that, and maybe roll off the top here. So I'll add, let's get rid of that one. I'll add number 8. Just roll off the top a little bit. Sorry, we're at a time where there's like a lot of effects. So I'm going to take off all the sends for a second. So we definitely want to find some frequencies that we like here and add to it since we've taken off so much already. It might be cool to add an auto filter on this and see how that goes, and maybe LFO that guy. So I'll put the auto filter before the EQ8, and this is something I like to remind everybody, well, anybody that I work with, I always put the EQ8 last before the utility because I like to clean up anything that happened before. So say you add a compressor or you add like the vintage bit sampler from Redux, like that's adding frequencies to the track. So we need to, or to the channel. So we need to clean up afterwards. So if you had an EQ8 before that, it's literally adding more frequencies after, which might muddy up your mix later. So I always add an EQ8 almost, it's always second to last. Utility is the very last thing. So I added the auto filter, put a little envelope and a little LFO and let's see how that goes. So I'm noticing when I do that, the resonating frequency is at negative 15. So that's getting pretty close to the kick, and it's definitely louder, which is good, but we have to hear it in the mix. So let's hear everything all together. So for me, it's a little too loud, so I'm just going to lower it on the gain, maybe negative 3. And take away some more of the high frequency. And you know what? An auto pan would be really cool here, so it's like moving around a little bit. going to lower just a little bit more because I think it's a little too intense. And let's see how everything sounds. I'll just fast forward it a little bit to hear it. Yeah, I like where that's at. It's like at a pretty level. Everything's cleaned up. It has its own characteristic, and it's almost ready for mastering. There's a few little things we can do for like sprinkles and magic touches and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time for that today, but that's it. I'll show you really quick my return channels. I have a delay here with an EQ8. I've got a little reverb here, also with an EQ8, just to clean it up. And this is a really cool one that we added. So if here, I'll show you an example of this one. This is like, I call like the angelic send I have here on C. So let's hear this whisper thing. I'm going to send it to C. Has like this shimmer kind of thing. You can probably hear it more with like things with more frequencies in it, but it's a really cool little effect. And then on D, I have this grain delay, which is always modulated with some LFOs. So things are always moving. So I'll show you that. And it just keeps going. So things are always moving. I try to make things as human as possible because we're using, these machines. So I try to make things superhuman and make it really fun and just always changing. So yeah, I mean, that's how you do a quick mix down in 45 minutes and arrangement. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry it was so rushed. I hope it was valuable for you. I'm happy to take any questions. I think we have a few minutes for questions. So yeah. You need the mic? Or no? Yeah, that's all right. Perfect. Let's do it. Of course.
Mic check? Okay. Hi. So my name's Belle, or Bella. I'm a drummer. I DJ. I produce EDM. I'm a music educator. I wear a lot of hats. But my question for you is, so I'm in the process of curating my own live set, and I haven't really gotten a lot of live experience doing that specifically. And one unique aspect of my live set is I use synthesizers and like a lot of virtual like computer stuff, and I combine it with live instruments like live bass guitar, live drums. What is your advice for not only getting that, like capturing that in, like a studio mix, and as well as capturing that in like a literal live set?
That's a good question. Very good question. And thank you for being here. Thank you for your question. So your question is, how do you capture these live elements from your real instruments, right?
Yeah, like mixing them together.
Yeah, mixing them together. I mean, what I do is like, I'm also a drummer, by the way, like FYI, like since like age 12. So I get it. Very cool. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, like what I do is like once I got like a groove going, wherever it's from, I'll just keep looping that groove, and then I'll record over it, like 32 bars, 60, as long as I want. Like just keep going, make different things, because then you can chop that up later. And then that's what I did here. I had like, 2 minutes of an acid bass thing going, and I chopped it up into different things, and I just played with it live. You know what I mean? And you can really bring that into your mixes that way, into your final arrangement, because now you have your live aspect of everything you perform live with all of your improvisation, and you can just make that into a track from there. But it's not all, it can be all over the place here and there, but you still have this organized chaos, so to speak. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, awesome. I hope that answered your question.
It does.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, anybody else?
Hi, my name is Danny. I'm a DJ and event organizer. I'm also a drummer.
Nice.
I was curious, what audio interface are you using? And then the second question is, could we get like maybe like an A/B test to see what a kick would sound like in mono versus not mono?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so right now I just brought this Apollo Twin from Universal Audio. In the studio I have an Apollo 16 aggregated with the Apollo Twin with an SSL Big 6. So we've got like 32 inputs and I think like 32 outputs. So we can do some fun stuff. Second question, yes, we can definitely A/B really quick here. So stereo versus mono kick. So let's hear this guy. So right now he's in mono, and actually I'm gonna turn off everything. So this is mono with the EQ. Actually, let's A/B it without the EQ. So mono, stereo. And And you won't hear a difference because we're in a club where they use crossovers. So they've already monoed all the bass. It's already done. Yeah. Yeah. So you won't you won't hear the difference. So as I'm showing you, like, oh, wait a minute. So unfortunately, you won't hear the difference. But I will say it doesn't matter because when you play it out live, like they're gonna mono it out. You know what I mean? So, but I like to do the homework. I like to do the housekeeping beforehand because I'm like a nerd and I'm like, oh, we gotta do this right, you know, like kind of thing. But a long time ago, I did used to like when I was like making like 120 BPM minimal stuff back in the day. I did used to do stereo kicks for some reason, but it didn't matter. Like they're gonna mono it out the club anyway. But it does sound different if you're using like spatial audio. Maybe you might hear it. That kind of fun stuff, like in headphones, non-club atmosphere. If that makes sense. So,
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Anybody else? Any other questions?
How you doing, man? My name is George.
Yeah.
I go by George Knox. I'm a DJ and a music producer here in Miami. Before my question, I want to say thanks for this. The way you explain things is eloquent, and if you're ever workshop, I'm more than willing to sit in on that.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Very honored.
As
Thank
a
you.
DJ and a music producer, like in the dance and house scene, you know, we wear multiple hats, not just producing, but mixing and sometimes mastering our own material. How do you go about switching those hats? Like, I know sometimes people say just step away from the computer so you can go back and mix, but is there any tips or tricks you have to kind of switch those hats on and off?
That's a great question. So I think that's like a very well asked question. A lot of people have that same, so that's a really good one. So there's a couple things I do. The first thing I do, I learned from a masterclass I took back in the day. I attended Full Sail like a long time ago.
Same,
I don't want
yeah.
to dox myself, but it's a long time ago. And so I met with a friend and we followed this dude named Il Gates. I don't know if anybody heard of Il Gates, but he's like this old dubstep producer that worked with Skrillex back in the day. Yeah. And he had this really cool mentality where you split up your sessions, right? So I kind of said that in the beginning a little bit. So I like to do anything that's creative. If I have something creative to do, like actually making music or like improvisation, like the creative part of making it, like touching things, right? I like to do that if I have more than an hour and a half, because if you're creating something, you got 30 minutes and then you got to go to a meeting for an event, or you have a call or a conference call or whatever, or you have something to do with your family and they come in 31st minute, hey, we got to go. And you're like, shit, how frustrating is that, right? Like, that's such a killjoy, and like you were in the vibe. So it's very important for me to separate my sessions. Okay. If I got more than an hour and a half, I'm doing something creative. If I got less than an hour, I'm doing all the other stuff. Whether it's learning a piece of gear, or I'm doing something like mixing, or I'm doing something like a business meeting, whatever it is. It's under, if I have less than an hour, that's what I'm focused on. If I have more than an hour, I'm creating. Because if once I mix those two things up, I'm going to get frustrated. And I'm not going to want to come back the next day, like little by little.
Is it okay if it bleeds over, like when it comes to sound design, you're doing a light mix on the fly? Is that okay to do that too? Because I find myself doing that, but then I'm afraid to like going too deep into mixing it, and then you kind of get frustrated. You know what I'm saying? For
sure. Oh, I totally understand. So I think like there's no right way to do anything. Like, this is music, right? Yeah. I mean, it's jazz, man. You know what I mean? Like we're out here like everything is on the kind of fly. So there's no right way. I'll just tell you what worked for me. Yeah, like, dude, like I'm creating live sometimes, and I'm like, yo, you know what? Like, let me just throw this compressor on there real quick. I don't get too deep with it. I'm not like, oh, I gotta find the right frequency, but I'm like, let me just throw this auto filter on there. You know, like really quick. That's fine. It's okay. You know, there's no, like I said, there's no right way, and if it bleeds over, that's okay too, man. You know, like, don't beat yourself up about it. Just remember, like, it's a process. It takes a while. You're not alone, but everything you're doing is, you know, it's authentic and it's necessary. And just like be patient with yourself. Does that make sense?
For sure, yeah.
Cool.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you explain things so well. I feel like I'm always trying to wrap my head around compression and EQ, and I hope this video will be available because I'll study it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
But and that you do more also. But yeah, because I always find for myself, I'm a producer and a vocalist and multi-instrumentalist. Like, I can get my mixes to, let's say, 80% or something, but I just don't have I put in all of my hours into the creative and not as many hours into the technical. So it's like, I'm always wondering how to get that last 20%. And I mean, a lot of it is like, well, how do you fall in love? Like, how do you find the right person to mix your music?
Right,
is
right.
what it always feels like, because it's like, I don't know. I guess it's either I have to get better at it myself and master it, because it's like whenever I give it away to someone else, it's like giving away part of your production. But I know I can't get there myself on just with my lack of the finishing skills so far. But whenever I give it to someone who's like really a great mixer, and I'm like, oh, somehow like the soul gets lost of the music, you know, and that's sad.
For sure. No, I definitely understand. Great question. So are you there? Are you present when they're mixing? Or is this like virtual, like they're, you send it off?
I've tried different scenarios, and then like for the latest album, I ended up just taking the mix back and spending about like 5,000 hours of my life mixing until I was happy.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I feel like finding a good mixing engineer is like finding a small reflection of yourself, right? You got to find somebody who's like, who like kind of like vibes with you, and you guys can like just sit back and shoot the shit with, and you're like, oh, that guy gets me, or the girl gets me, or whoever, you know what I mean? And that can be tough. So if you're doing it yourself, let's say let's go to that for a second. Let's step in that realm. If you're doing it yourself, like mixing is not the most fun for anybody. It's technical, right? It's not very creative. So like the tricks I do is like these channel strips type of thing. Just make it quick, make it simple, make it as like dumb it down. So it's like, oh, boom, I can put this on. I know that these are the necessary things I need to do, and I've saved it, and I can just make it fast. Because we're creating music, and the technical side can, like I said, can push us away from the creative process. So we have to find a way back in. And then once you get that right sound that's keeping the soul, like you said, then you're like, oh wow, I love this part now, because I've made it so simple for me, and for me to maybe communicate to others that I'm working with to do that. It's more fun now. I don't know if that makes sense, but make it simple is what I'm saying. If you're doing it yourself, make little shortcuts for yourself, so that you can just blaze through it when you're doing it, or that you can explain to somebody else, like, yo, I always boost this like 500 hertz on my voice, on my vocal, or my synth, or whatever. Do you mind doing that? And then like send it back, that kind of thing. And I don't know like how many demos you get back, but like most mixing engineers, they should give you like three to five revisions, and like listen to it in different mediums, like the car, your headphones, a club, if you have a friend playing in the club, or something like that, just different mediums, so that you can really know how to communicate that to the mixing engineer, because most of them are very technical guys. So you got to kind of get on their level and be like, hey, like more high frequency, more this, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that makes sense, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, understanding, I know it sounds and feels good to me, but when you say like 500 hertz, I'm just like, yeah, I see
I get
what
it.
is,
I get
but
that.
That's a hard part for me.
I get that. There's some communication lingo that you could like maybe use that could explain it to them. Like instead of saying 500 hertz, you can say like, hey, like I like my, I don't know, do you sing, or what is it? What kind of music do you make? Or
Synth pop, but
Okay,
it's kind of
cool.
experimental.
yes, just say it's a synth
Yeah.
or something, right? And you're
Vocal forward, synth heavy.
awesome.
heavy.
So say it's a synth, you'd be like, hey, like some of this low end in the synth doesn't sound good. It's messing with the kick, or I'm not feeling whatever. Like you can kind of communicate that, be like specific, but as possible with these guys. Or if you're learning yourself, play with the audio effects. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sorry. I hope that was helpful. Yeah.
You can finish up.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Of course. Do you think I can show just this one last slide? It'll take 30 seconds. I think it'd be really helpful for these guys before they head out.
Yeah, for sure. 30 seconds.
It's a really quick slide. I think it's really helpful. If anybody wants to read a book, I highly recommend Atomic Habits by, I think, James Clear. Super sick.
To put something up?
Yeah, I just want to show this thing. It's going to come up. So this is, let's take 30 seconds. So this is the plateau of latent potential, right? So everybody is on a journey here to do something that is bringing your own like goals or success, right? So on the timeline, on the XY axis, we have time going across, right? Horizontal, and then vertically we have results. So results are like your success. And most people think that it's a straight line to success, right? But it's actually not. Like what happens is people are going, working on a certain thing, a certain goal, a certain whatever. And there's going to be times where you stumble and you go into this valley of disappointment. This area right here, it's called the belly of the beast. That's what we like to call it. And people don't realize, like, you can keep fighting here, and then some people, like, just quit. They're like, oh, man, you know what? I guess I wasn't there. But they could be super close, like right there where the red and green arrow connect. You could be right there. So just don't stop trying. Keep pushing. There's people here to help you. There's a community. I'm here if you need me. keep going, because you could be so close, and realize that it's a journey. This is not like a get successful quick scheme. This takes time, and people have been doing it forever. My friend Adam Collins here, he's one of my idols in music. He's a big UK tech house producer, and he's been doing it since the 80s, 90s probably. And I mean, he's still doing it great. It didn't happen overnight for him. It didn't happen overnight for anybody. So just don't forget to keep pushing, and that you're not alone, and just fight through the valley of disappointment, and you'll get there. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you. And thank you, 3 Points.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Emo.
Pablo.
Yes.
So grateful to be here and honored. So enjoy, guys. Thank you guys for ending with me.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
this
you.
weekend. It was a pleasure having you all. Thanks for tuning in. That is the end of Points of View for this round. See you next time.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.